I can't hear you.
And this time,
Oh, there you are.
oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yay!
Oh dear.
Hang on, and I can hear myself on my other computer. Hang on 2 seconds.
Okay.
Just close the door because I think part of the problem was my mouse on my computer died.
Okay. Well, it just was because I was requesting to come on. It's pretty it's free. You know what I mean? The
Yeah, that's true.
Facebook Live. It's not. It's a bit. It is a bit hit and miss.
Yes, true. Okay. Well, anyway, so now we're on. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on and talk with everybody. Good, Melissa. Thank you for letting us know. Melissa's just written in the comments that we're both of us now. Thank goodness. So yeah, I just thought it was an important time to take stock of everything. Oh no, where have you gone? Tara! Oh no. Oh, she's gone. Okay, it's just going to be one of those days. But hopefully she can get back in and rejoin us. So yeah, what's this? Okay. What I was going to say was that there's a lot of people who are feeling the extra stress of everything. I mean, in Victoria, we're sitting on the verge of another potential lockdown, and we don't know what that's going to look like. I've just been watching a lot of colleagues on Twitter receive feedback on these huge grants, and a lot of the feedback's been quite ruthless, or just really nasty, and so people are struggling with that, and then a lot of people who lost their jobs and are starting to try and figure that out. Oh, good. You're back. Thank goodness. I was just saying that there's a lot of people struggling at the moment and that we're on the verge of another lockdown down here in Victoria. People are trying to figure out how to deal with the loss of jobs, and then those big grants that I was telling you about last week.
Yeah.
The academics that I know who put in their applications for that are just kind of reeling from some of the nastiness floating around that they didn't need on top of everything else. So thought this was a good time to have something like this where people could just kind of pause and regroup a little bit.
Definitely. And what we were saying as well, like, for my oldest daughter who's 21, it's like if you do this and you do well in your HSC and you go to uni, everything will be fine. And then it's like the brakes are on there, or even, climbing the career ladder or putting the right things into your work and, do this and do that and you won't have to worry. And this whole situation has just thrown all of that up in the air for a lot of people. Not for everybody. And, it's important to acknowledge there's a really wide range of experiences
Yes.
happening. Some people are loving it. Some people are really stressed. Some people overwhelmed. Some people underwhelmed.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different experiences. Ilaria, stop it. Happening for people. So I think, what we wanted to do this week is just help settle the mind, settle the nervous system, settle the emotions, take that deep breath, the 3 deep breaths um, over the week to stop and what you and I were talking about, especially for academics and also for people in terms of career, is taking a moment to step back, take a few deep breaths, and what is it that why are you here? Why did you get into this in the first place? Because it's also easy to be, moved along in certain pathways and funnels and directions just because, that's what's come to you. And I remember a client a couple of years ago, she was super busy all the time because she had that mindset of take every opportunity that comes to you. And so she used to take every opportunity, whether it was aligned with her or not. So she was just like, super, super busy and then, spread a bit thin. So you can end up spread a bit thin, or just all of a sudden you realize, oh, that fork in the road, I just went this way without really, and now I actually feel far away from where I wanted to be right now. And I think that's what COVID has done for a lot of people. The common denominator would be reassessing your life. What do you really want? What is important to you? What is your priority? I've seen a lot of women just saying to kids, one after school activity, that's all you're getting, not 2 or 3. I'm not, we're not running around every day after school, making dinners rushed, making after school rushed, sitting in traffic and, missing out on that family time. So it's a time to reassess for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think also, and I won't mention who it is because I haven't asked her permission to talk about this, but I was just reading a work of a colleague who's over in the UK, and she was reflecting on some of her work and just how she's had to remove her emotions from her writing for starters, but to seem professional all the time and not really engage or let on about how she's feeling. And so there's a disconnect there. Whereas I think now, I mean, this is again like I'm kind of broad brush stroking and assuming a little bit, but I don't think people's emotions can be as hidden when we're all working from home or having to juggle so much and having to do these Zooms from our very personal spaces.
And is that what we want for life? Is that actually a healthy, happy way, productive way to live our life?
Yeah, exactly.
I've had a few similar discussions this week around, the kids and grief. And it's like, well, we can't not have grief in the conversation because it can't be excluded from the conversation of, some sort of professional conversation because it's a big part of what's going on for my kids right now, and I can't have a conversation without including that in the perspective,
Yeah.
And so, I think that's a big question. Like, how much do we want to be? How professional do we want to be, and how much do we want to be a bit more vulnerable, a bit more authentic within ourselves? So, coming back to your own happiness, productivity, connection to your community, and your I guess, like, how you want to live your life and how you want to contribute to yourself, your family, your community, and then to the collective, and I think that's another thing that we've had the opportunity to do is reflect on all of that a little bit. We've had, not everyone, some people have been super busy and it's been a nightmare, but, but still reflecting on either way, how our personal actions rippling out into the community, and is that what we want? How do we want that to look?
Yeah.
And so right now for people, if we bring out today, we wanted to just start with like taking that deep breath to let the thoughts settle, let the emotions settle, and then you don't find time, you find space, and that gives you time. And in that space you'll not only have some space to think, but you allow space for ideas. And we haven't had a lot of space for ideas, or to think outside the box, or to think differently.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Everyone's been in a rush to do things that they feel are expected of them.
Mm.
And
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, so then we sort of get more of the same, and so, the first step is really is breathing. And I'd love to give you something more. It's profoundly simple, you know
Yeah.
but what happens is when we breathe through our nose, we actually, and this is the you know a big part of yoga, or meditation, or um, the way we work physiologically. When we breathe through our nose, we actually draw the air deep into the bottom part of the lungs, which is 80% of the lung capacity. And we're also there's receptors there that create a relaxation response in the mind, and slow those thoughts down and bring us back a little bit more into the primal mind, and so the primal part of our brain, rather. So when we're busy and rushing and stressed, we breathe through our mouth, we breathe into our upper chest, and then our musculoskeletal system isn't actually trained to breathe lower. So we're trained ourselves then to do these short, high up breaths, which is the fight or flight response. So while it's profoundly simple, it's profoundly effective to learn to breathe, and to breathe in through the nose, deep into the body. And some simple yoga, even just a simple side stretch to, the side ribs the intercostal muscles get really tight. We want to release those so we can breathe into the sides and the belly and the chest and the back. And then we start to create this relaxation with a different set of hormones going through the body, which settles the mind, settles the emotions, start to feel space around you, like everything's not on top of you. And that allows room for an idea to come up, for a new opportunity to come, for to see something from a different perspective that maybe we didn't, or what we would normally say is just to have a bit of space to think. It's actually a lot more than that. It's actually creating space to stop thinking, and to also allow the intuition and opportunities, and that space to be more creative in our thinking, and to look at things from a different perspective. And so for people who have hit a very unexpected roadblock with their career, it is like a profoundly simple place to start, is to practice your breathing, so that you can allow those creative juices of different ideas to come up, different possibilities, different solutions. And it really is about I see a traditional Chinese medicine, Angela, who you met.
Yes.
And we had this joke, like, shut your mouth, stop talking, shut your mouth, and breathe through your nose. So
Yeah.
stop talking, shut your mouth, and breathe through your nose. And notice what a difference that makes. So what I could do actually is I can record a video that we could put up of a breathing exercise for everybody,
That would be awesome.
and just to play around with that over this week, and start to notice what happens. And you might notice a lot of people just start noticing how much they hold their breath,
Yes.
or they breathe like this, and it all filters through your posture, everything. But it's really super fucking effective in settling the mind, settling the emotions, settling the nervous system, and start to feel some breathing space. And
Yeah,
that's what I would recommend for people, to get started.
that's awesome. And I think too, when you mentioned intuition before, that
Mm,
was something that I loved when I started talking to you about just everything.
mm,
Was just realizing that your intuition gets squashed when you're just exhausted,
mm.
and tapping back into that is so. It's just, yeah, it's amazing to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I someone said to me the other day, make the small decisions with your head and the big decisions with your heart.
Mm,
And these are big decisions. If you've all of a sudden hit this brick wall that didn't even exist 3 months ago,
yeah.
um, it's time to, and you're used to making decisions with your head because you're smart, you're academic, you know, you've got your shit together, boom, 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 and that's how you've been working. And all of a sudden, you need to make decision with your heart instead. And
Mm,
again, the place to start with that is to deepen and slow down the breath and let that physiological response happen.
mm.
You know, so
Yeah, because you don't want to be in fight or flight mode when you're making those big choices.
no, you want to come out of fight or flight to make those big decisions. And again, as I said, it brings the intuition, it brings this sense of possibility, which we're going to talk about more later in the week, to start getting glimpses of possibility instead of what can't.
Mm,
Start to think, just playing with, well, what is possible, maybe something you haven't seen before, something you haven't thought of before, and then all of a sudden, this tiny tweak of direction, and then you're heading into a completely different space, and might even be better than ever it was before.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I remember you saying that too. It's like all you need is a tiny little shift in direction, and then you might end up in a totally different
Yep, that's right.
trajectory. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be, um, it feels overwhelming because it feels like a massive decision and you can't see it when you're in fight or flight often. You need to stop and slow down and allow space for that to come up. So, yeah, so
Mm,
let's do I'll record a little breathing exercise for everyone and you can post it up later
awesome.
today. And then let's start, we're moving from just slowing the mind down, moving out of overwhelm
Mm,
or underwhelm. So underwhelm is sort of that feeling of a bit of despair, like, there's not enough choices, perhaps.
yes,
Um, and so as we move out of that back into the present moment, back into more abundance, back in, and we'll talk later in the week, start actually formulating some ideas around possibilities, which is going to be exciting to see, what comes up for people.
exactly. Yeah, it will be really, really exciting.
Hmm.
Awesome. All right. Well, maybe let's stop it there for today because I think
Yeah, I think
we'll
so.
hopefully
Enough.
give people a taster and a starting point.
Mm.
And hopefully Be Live will work for us for the rest of the week. Um,
Yes.
we'll stick with this, I think.
Yeah, it is temperamental, these some of these live videos. Yeah.
Yes. But
But
hopefully
that's also a sign of the times, like just having to sit back, be patient, not be in a rush, and you know,
chip away.
technology definitely teaches us that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Awesome. Oh, thanks, Tara. And yeah, we'll catch everybody tomorrow.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, darling.
Bye.
Bye.